Alright guys, so I put together a wee scuba diving video and thought I'd talk a wee bit about it. This isn't really a step-by-step guide or anything like that, it's just a bit of a breakdown of how I decided to do it, and hopefully you'll find some of the ideas useful or just interesting in general. I'm not really a visual effects artist, this is just basic 2D compositing with some live action elements, so let's get started. So for the props, I just had the scuba diving gear and the miniature plane. The scuba diving gear is just made up of just some snorkeling equipment, that's just the goggles and the breathing tube, black balaclava, a black morph suit with a flotation vest, a disposable camera, and a set of flippers. On top of that, for the oxygen tank, I just had a yellow cylindrical backpack, which looks good enough to be an oxygen tank or a bag which carries an oxygen tank. It's all I could really get my hands on and it worked well enough. For the plane, it was just a miniature, but this is a miniature for an actual fish tank. It's about this big. It looks okay, it's a bit cartoony, but it worked well enough. So for filming the diving, I shot on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K. It's no surprise I shot on a green screen for all of the shots, although I did end up using Runway ML to mask myself out quite a bit. A lot of the time I couldn't pull a key from some of the shots I was using, so Runway did help out quite a bit with that. So because I'm supposed to be floating around, I just balanced myself on a bar stool. This is the best way to do it since I don't have any cables or anything like that. I was limited to the certain kinds of shots I could do because of this, but I just did as many as I could and made sure it was shot in slow motion to give it that slow feel to it, as if my hands are passing through the water. For the lighting, I just had a soft top-down light, just because the only source of light in the scene realistically is just the light coming through the top layer of the water, and it would just disperse and scatter through the liquid to give it that nice sort of soft overall look. And for one shot in particular, just before I actually dive into the water, I'm actually on the surface, so what I did was sprayed some water droplets onto my equipment and onto myself, just because there was water splashing about in that scene and I wanted to make it look like I was actually being affected by the environment I was surrounded by. So for filming the miniature, I shot on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K. I shot on a 12mm lens and got up very close to the miniature. This is just to make it appear a lot larger. The problem with this though is because you're bringing your elements so close to the lens, your depth of field becomes very, very narrow. So you need to increase your f-stop, or that's to shut your iris, to give yourself a much deeper depth of field, which will make the scene look a lot bigger and make it look a lot more realistic. The lighting was pretty much the same for this, it was just a soft top-down light, although I did have to pump a lot of light into the scene because my f-stop was so high. So the compositing was fairly straightforward. I did all the compositing in After Effects. It was just mostly a matter of either rotoscoping or keying my elements and color grading them appropriately. I just used solid colors of blue in the background for the ocean, with a brighter blue on top and a darker blue on the bottom, just to show how that light dims as it gets lower down. For the shot before I dive into the water, I just had some rain assets just going slightly side on, just to show that the boat is moving and there's a lot of water splashing about, and maybe there's a bit of rain coming down as well. It just helps to fill in the scene a wee bit and just tie everything together a wee bit. To simulate the light coming down through the water, I got light ray assets. These are really easy to get, you can pick these up online, and they do look pretty good. I made sure to actually add a caustics effect, so caustics are just the pattern light rays cause when actual rays hit objects, so it's just kind of that underwater pattern you often see at swimming pools, so I just made sure to add that on different layers just to make it look a bit more realistic. I just added some finishing touches onto it. I added a few particles, some fish going by, and I made sure that every single underwater shot had some amount of warping. I actually used the heat distortion effect for this, although you could do the same thing with turbulent displacement. It just warps and blurs the image just enough to make it look kind of like you're looking through water if you mess around with its settings. And on top of that, I just added in some underwater sounds and some music, and that was me done. So that's that. That's just a quick breakdown of how I did a wee scuba diving underwater effect. I hope you found it interesting, I hope you found it useful, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.